When I think back upon my journey into technology and my career, there was consistently somebody in my life who was telling me I wasn't smart enough, I didn't have the right degree, I didn't have the right skill, I wasn't tall enough, whatever it was, there was always somebody there describing the barriers of why I didn't belong. What's really disturbing is when I look back throughout my entire life, that person who consistently told me that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't strong enough, I wasn't educated enough, was me. And what I discovered along the way was this understanding of imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is this psychological phenomenon that happens when a person doubts their own accomplishments, their own skills, their own belonging, and has a fear of being exposed as a fraud. Now, if I were trying to go out and say, convince somebody that I was an airline pilot, I would indeed be an imposter, and I would indeed be fraudulent. I have no idea how to fly an airplane. But where imposter syndrome really finds itself is when we are the person that we say we are, but we still fear that we're not good enough. What if they find out that I still have to go Google the answer when I'm writing code? Or what if they find out that I'm not as good as they might think that I am? This is a common fear that almost every human being deals with and grapples throughout their life. Now, I've never figured out how to overcome imposter syndrome, but I have learned tools and techniques to help me navigate around this when it appears in my life. I give a longer talk about this, and if you come to Codeup, you'll have an opportunity to see it. But it really started at a point in my life where I was inspired by somebody who I looked up to. You see, I was an early programmer, was beginning my journey as a software developer, and somebody that I greatly admired and respect, who's far more accomplished than I was, came and asked me for help. This was a man who had risen the ranks throughout the military. He had joined as a private right out of high school. He'd gone through the Green to Gold program, which allowed him to get a degree while he was in the military, eventually acquiring 3 degrees, including a PhD, and had risen to the rank of colonel. He was now working on a project for his dissertation, actually before he got his PhD, and he had brought me in to help him write some software for it. And I remember thinking, this is going to be awesome. I get to learn from somebody who has accomplished so much more than I ever had dreamed of. And I finally thought I was going to unlock the skills necessary so that I could grow in my life like he had. So we're a few weeks into this project. He's new into his PhD program. He had been accepted. We're writing this software. And one day he calls me and he said, Jason, sorry to tell you, but I got to stop the project. We're going to shut it down. And I was a little hurt. I wanted to understand it a little bit more. And I said, well, why? Why are we closing it? Are you going to work on something else? And what he told me was, I'm dropping out of college. You see, I don't belong here, Jason. I've been in the military for decades. It's been 20 years since I've been in college. All these folks that are here, they went from high school to college to master's to PhD. I've been in a war zone. They understand statistics, and I've forgotten all of that. I'm having to take remedial math classes. They all speak a jargon and a language that I don't. The reality, Jason, is I don't fit here, and I'm going to drop out. And that made perfect sense to me. I'm the master of quitting things at this point in my life. Where everything changes for me is a few days later. He called me back. He said, Jason, I'm sorry, but if you're still willing to work on this project with me, I'd love to bring you back on. I'm sorry that I shut it down last week. And I said, wow, what are we going to do? Are you going to make it private? Are you going to try to monetize this? Are you going to turn it into a company? And he said, no, I'm staying in my program. And for whatever reason, this was incredibly foreign to me. It made no sense. And I asked him, I said, but you gave me all these reasons why you didn't belong and you didn't fit, and they made sense. What made you decide to stay? And this is where I began to understand what imposter syndrome is and how it affects our lives. What he told me, he said, Jason, over the weekend, I really sat down with it, and everything I told you was true. But I also looked at all the reasons why I did belong. You see, my family moved across the country for me to come to this program. They uprooted, quit jobs, moved to a whole new community and to new schools so that I could do this. They believe that I belong there. The admissions team made it hard for me to get in this program, and I worked really hard to get in, and they believe I should be there. When I told my students, my peers that I was dropping out, they were dumbfounded because they believed that I should be at this program. And Jason, what I realized this weekend was I'm just scared. I'm terrified of failure. I'm terrified that I don't belong and that I'm a fraud. And the reality is that I probably do belong, and I'm just scared. That floored me because I immediately looked back on my life and I thought of all the times I had quit, all the times I didn't take the seat. I didn't move forward in the opportunity for one reason and one reason alone, because I was scared. And then I learned about imposter syndrome. And now I can recognize when that fear comes into my life, when that voice in my head tells me that I don't belong, in my heart, I know that I do. And I encourage and empower you to look at your life and to ask, do I belong and I'm just scared? Or am I really a fraud? And the chances are there's a seat at the table for you. And we want to help get you there. Imposter syndrome is about knowing and identifying the pattern and the fear so that when it presents itself in our lives, we can recognize it and name it for what it is, understand, and then we can overcome and navigate in a way that allows us to achieve the best version of ourselves that we can. And here at Codeup, we understand that imposter syndrome is often one of the largest obstacles standing between where we are now and where it is we want to go. And we are focused on helping you identify and remove those barriers and obstacles in your life so that you can enjoy success, happiness, and growth in your new career in technology.